Good evening. First, we would like to thank BMA team, our President Deepak Shah sir, our Vice President Sri Nimil Bakshi, our Secretary Sri Sharad Kalpesh Shah, our Treasurer Sri Saraj Jain. Also, advance thanks to all attendees and YouTube viewers for spending time for listening to us. In current scenario, we all know that due to Corona of last 2 years, laws of learning, school learning has been changed drastically. People are using various gadgets, online sessions are happening, and this online session of BMA is, we can say that it is also kind of modified the way which we used to represent for from last so many years. Today's topic is regarding education, the age of advanced education, technological driven era. It is kind of recorded audio, video, and faculty, Mr. Rajul Garg, who studied from Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi, and he has been a mentor in various organizations. Now, I will request our Vice President, Sri Nimil Bakshi sir, to take this forward. Thank you.
Just a minute.
Again, very humbled to be here, and thank you for inviting me here for all the authorities. I think I've been a more completely an industry person historically who moved over to academics about 4 years back, but couldn't move completely. So I'm sort of kind of in middle where I have one leg firmly entrenched in industry and one leg now, a little bit in education. So I think I'm pretty sure I will not be able to match in technology-driven education, which is the area that I have been a part of over the last 4 years. I think we've done some interesting experiments. And I think given the focus of Mr. Modi and the government on digital India, especially in education, I think that's what, we'll talk about what we are seeing, what is happening over the next few years. And, like to keep it short and spend more time on Q&A and hear other people's experiences as well. So that's the topic, how technology is redefining the education scenario. I think it's very early days of this redefinition. I think there is a lot of talk and there is a lot of interest in the ecosystem to use technology. But I think as there's so many, if you will know, it's still very early days, and I think technology is being used in core education, and I'll give you a little bit of assessment of where I think it's being more heavily used versus less. I think, I already got a really sort of good introduction, I think. So I don't think we need this slide anymore. But I will, still very quickly just run through it. So I'm a computer science programmer by training, very much a software developer, started my career like that. My colleagues here, some from college. The first company that I started, it was called Pine Labs, where, next time you go to a restaurant and you pay by credit card, look at the name of the machine on which, you're swiping the card. You will see now Pine Labs has 60% market share of that in the country. I wrote that software. I never knew it will become so rampant. Otherwise, I would have put some sort of logic there that if it's my name, it did that. But I think it was a fantastic journey, just gaining great experience in how technology can be so empowering and can be so impactful throughout the country. So that was my first company. I exited that. I sold, 6, 7 years back. So I'm no more a part of the company anymore. But I did write the software, and was the initial 7, 8 years. My second company was an outsourcing company, something more familiar in India. So many large outsourcing companies. We saw decent success, and again, sort of it got bought out by a private equity player about 3 years back. Then I moved over to the venture side. So this is basically making venture investments. Some people, I was hearing the corridor, who make all these expensive investments in these e-commerce companies, as we know, I think rightly so, but I think there is a lot of people question those investments as well, that will they ever become profitable? And I think, I think you had a great answer. So moved over to the venture side. Worked for Sequoia Capital, which is one of the largest venture funds globally, invested in Google, YouTube, so many of these gigantic successes, and worked for a fund called Avishkar, through which actually I spent a lot of time in Gujarat. So looking at investments in smaller towns, in health, education. So it's my first time to Baroda, but I've spent a bunch of time in Ahmedabad and places nearby. So that's where I got interested in education. That was 2011, and that was the first time I got introduced to education. I think got seduced by the sector and started my own online school, because I come from a technology background. It's very difficult to me to speak like in a forum like this where there are real people. I normally speak to a computer and find it much more comfortable. But I think started an online school, of which I'll just share my experiences in a little bit. And then on the side, because I've been in the ecosystem, I enjoy a lot of early stage investing and some board memberships with larger companies for my own learning, and a bunch of other stuff. So more like a portfolio career at this point of time. I live in Delhi, 2 girls, well-traveled, love Bollywood. So that's a little bit personally about me. So, the topic is so large of how technology is being used in education. So I tried to make a couple of slides to try and summarize it somewhat and give at least a 5,000 feet view. And by no means this is a definitive view. I have no way of knowing if this is accurate completely, but these are more what I have seen, in the sector in India and a little bit globally. So again, I would welcome any sort of feedback on this as we get into Q&A. So I divide role of technology into 3 parts in all of education. So first is what I call communication and collaboration, which is simple communication and collaboration technology. So simple examples are even things like email. So while the industry adopted email very early, right, in the 90s, maybe the early 2000s, what I've seen is the education sector really only adopted it later. It only started adopting it in the late 2000s. I think even today, I don't think there's 100% penetration. Even today, I see many educationists, when you send them an email, then you also have to send them an SMS that I sent you an email. Can you please check it, or have you checked it? Right? I think WhatsApp people are using that much more, but I think communication and collaboration itself is such a powerful thing that used in any industry, whether it's steel manufacturing to to education to healthcare, it has a multiplier effect on everyone's productivity. So I think the stage of adoption of this, I still say medium, because I'm comparing it to normal industry. If you go to the knowledge economy or the tech industry, obviously the adoption is really high. People live by their email. I'm sure if I send an email to some of these guys, I'll get a response right away. And the impact is also very high. So it just results in multiplied productivity. The second category is what I call, course management and delivery. You often hear a term like LMS, which is Learning Management System, which many colleges, schools, educational institutes use, which is nothing but a repository of courses. You put some videos, you put some documents, student upload their assignments, there are some course discussions. So I think I see an early stage of adoption of LMSs now, maybe a good chunk of maybe 10% schools might have adopted LMSs and course management and delivery technology. Many more have installed them, but very few are using them. So I think educationists, students alike, they are in early stages of understanding how to use it productively. So while the tool is there, but I think the way to use it, the adoption is still very early. In my experience. But it has a good impact. If you do use it, it lowers the cost of course delivery, brings in more consistency. It also promises scale. And some examples are like LMSs or short courses within normal schools and stuff like that. So that's kind of one category, which I call the second category, course management and delivery. The third category, I think, is a very interesting category, but very, very early, is core schooling. So this is basically completely technology-led schools who have no physical presence. So Sunstone, my school, is an example like that, right? So we have no physical campus. All students are virtual. And there are other experiments in the world. There are concepts of open schools where kids are not going to school. They're only learning through technology, meeting once a week. But they're very, very niche, very, very early. There is no real mass adoption of any kind. There's something called MOOCs, which is massive online open courses. You might have heard of companies like Coursera, edX, who have millions of courses. And they're trying to become an alternative to higher ed, because the quality of courses is very high. They offer certifications, but it's still early. It's not something that you can't carry a Coursera degree on your CV and go to, Bank of Baroda. I don't think Bank of Baroda will entertain you if you're carrying a Coursera certificate with you. Yeah. But there are other experiments like hole in the wall. There was an experiment where one teacher, they basically put a computer in a small village, and the village kids had full internet connectivity and nothing else. And they gave him some exam papers which they had to submit, and there's a lot of learning through that. So I think there are a lot of these very, very early examples. This whole thing is very early. People are talking about creating real alternatives to BTech, MBA, core courses. But I think this is a 50-year change and will happen very, very gradually if it happens at all. But these are interesting experiments to observe and maybe absorb them in some of the existing institutes. So those are three categories that I'm just trying to get a sense of how their adoption is. Let's take another slice of it, which is segment-wise. So if you look at K-12, early school education, test prep, undergraduate education, and UG+, which is a master's, skilling, these kind of things. So I thought let's take another cut at it where we look at how technology being adopted in these segments. So in K-12, what I see is that, again, collaboration tech, and I'm using the same three categories: collaboration tech, course management, course schooling. So I see K-12, a lot of adoption happening in collaboration technology, people using WhatsApp, messages, all kinds of things, teachers interacting more with students, parents, all that stuff is happening more and more. My sense is fast forward 3 or 4 years, we will have nearly sort of full usage of collaboration technology in all schools. I think early use of course management and delivery, and very, very early experiments with open schooling. I think test prep is one segment, I think driven again by venture market and the large scale of operations, has gone further ahead on technology usage. So if you think of CAT preparation, or you think of JE preparation, or even CFA prep, CA prep, all these people are using much more technology than core schooling today. So they are deeply penetrated on collaboration. They're heavily LMS'd at this point of time. There is a lot of content which has come online. There are lots of experiments where one celebrity professor is teaching in one place, being telecast to a multitude of students. And purely online test prep is beginning to happen as well. So the companies like Topper and other companies which are fully online. I mean, there is no physical test prep center at all. So you can just sign up, you buy a tablet, and you start preparing. These are early experiments. We have to see how they work, but they can be truly disruptive if they work, because it's very hard to meet their cost structure once they start working. So test prep is probably furthest ahead, driven by large numbers and also amount of venture funding that has gone into it. I think UG, which is bachelor's, again, I see the good news is I see good adoption of, course management and delivery. I think for some reason, they're further behind on collaboration technologies. I would love for them to use more of messaging. Which they are somehow behind K-12, which was a surprise to me. I think it's an older teacher demographic versus I think K-12 has slightly younger teachers. They're able to take to collaboration technology a little bit easier. And I think we're seeing a lot of distance education stuff happening. So IGNOU itself, which is the largest kind of open university in India, has 2 million students every year. They have like lots of courses, many of which are being taught online. They're not kind of core as such. I don't think many people are doing a BTech online, but a lot of things which can be done. I would say IGNOU has taken the lead in using more and more technology into that. So and then if you look at UG Plus, which is master's skilling, there I think again it's probably number 2 in usage of technology. So it's deeply penetrated in collaboration tech, rapid adoption happening in LMSs and stuff. And it is up for disruption, and there's a massive amount of activity going on. So if you look at even Coursera's of the world, all the MOOCs of the world, they're all playing in that segment. So indigenously now, there are a lot of companies, which have gotten funded. They're sort of attacking that market because here the student demographic is a little bit more mature. The nature of the studies is a little bit more they know what they're studying. There's less of physical mentoring required, the way you require in early childhood and stuff like that. So probably this is one area where there's a lot of activity going on. So those were my 2 cuts. One just the role of technology and one of adoption curves across different segments. But the bottom line is, just a quick summary. This is my last slide, and I'd love to hear comments from you all. That whichever segment you're in, you're likely to see a greater and greater use of technology over the foreseeable future. I think this is something which is absolutely given. So whichever institute you're in, whichever segment of education you are in, if you compare yourself to 5 years back, you probably are using more technology today than you were using 5 years back. So I think just it's reflective of the society. As a society, we're using more technology. So we're seeing that in education. And this sort of juggernaut will not stop. It will keep on going and in little ways, and it'll keep on getting deeply penetrated. Role of faculty is unlikely to weaken. I think education is one of the oldest sort of industries in that sense, where it still very much relies on a faculty teaching students. And while role definitions might change a little bit over a period of time, but the biggest role that faculty carries is still sort of about motivating people, even more than learning. So I think students need motivation. They need pat on their backs. They need sort of sometimes a little bit strictness as well to make sure that they keep going, to make sure that they follow a process, to make sure they have people to look up to. So I think that role is unlikely to weaken, and is going to stay for a long time, for the foreseeable future. But I think keeping an open mind is the key. I feel it's an increasingly experimental society. I encourage folks that we meet to be more experimental, try out more things, see what works. Nobody, I think, really has answers, but there's a lot of experimentation which is going on, I think, which is good for everyone. It's good for the ecosystem. It's good for the student community, and it's good for educators. So I think that's kind of my cut on, I think on a difficult topic, 15, 20 minutes, what I could capture, but happy to sort of hear your thoughts and any questions that I can answer.
Any questions, please? Yes, Aviben.
online courses are definitely going to be the future, but certain challenges arise. One is that if you see the statistics of Coursera, edX, etc., the completion rate is extremely low. Dropout is extremely high from these courses. Probably because, it's not still meant for everybody. Online courses are still not everybody's cup of tea or everybody's cup of course, if you like. And the other challenge is, the interaction, what you mentioned at the last, the motivation factor, that say a faculty sitting in one location still finds it very difficult to interact with thousands of students spread across the world. So a lot of issues arise in these online courses about getting feedback. That students prepare their assignments, they submit it, but sometimes the feedback is missing, which can be a great demotivator. So whether you get a pat on the back or you get a stick on the back, neither of it happens, and that can be a great demotivator. So from your perspective and your experience, how do you think these two challenges can be overcome so that online learning actually, helps to democratize education to those people who may not otherwise be able to get it?
Great question, thank you. So I think in online education, I would say there are right now two schools of thought. One led by the Americas and one led by most, I would say, more Asia, India, and economies where labor costs are lower. So the examples that we looked at, like Coursera, are more American-led strategies where all the focus is on awesome content creation. So basically what they would do is that they would take faculty from the top schools of the world, make some awesome content, and make that open for students. General student demographic, I think you're absolutely right, the completion rates are very, very low. So their main metric is not as much completion as of today. They're enrolling millions of students, and they're hoping that enough will graduate. Some will go, if it's a 1 kilometer journey, some will go 100 meters, some will go 300 meters. It's a freeware. So motivation is very low, but that's one school of thought. It's to be seen how it happens. Now, some of the courses will turn into credit courses, so there the motivation is higher. I think the other school of thought, which is more what I'm seeing, what we're doing and what India is seeing, is a little bit of a blend, I would say, which is not 100% online, in the sense of Coursera. So it may still be online, but the class size is small, so it's not 1,000 students, it's 30 to 40 students in a class, which is more like conventional classes. So you can actually interact. There's a lot more feedback, so there is actually, things like smaller groups, chats, tutorials, what we call, where there are 5 students, you look at every assignment, you discuss them, you give feedback. So you're not still in a physical proximity, but you are in a virtual setup, where you're doing these things. There's a lot more industry sessions. So I think this kind of blended model, which is being led from India, is attempting to solve some of these problems, which is low motivation of students and greater feedback loop. I don't think anybody has succeeded to that extent that you can say this is absolutely now a figured out problem. But I think we are seeing completion rates now close to 60%, 70%. I know other online courses who are seeing completion rates close to that number, a little bit higher, a little bit lower. So I think it's encouraging. And I think as the student demographic itself is getting more used to using technology, we expect these numbers to go up in future. You do more innovations and keep pegging at it.
So I have known some LMS for the corporate sector, for particularly in the IT sector, where you have certain technology courses which the employees are told to go through online. But about these tutorials, where are we in line with the recognition of these courses by employers, by even the Ministry of Education? And also the programs on skilling, which is like in US, I know there is an organization called WIN, W-I-N, which trains people online in all the trades of, like we have this ITIs. Right. So they have welders, electricians, mason, maybe drivers, all types of courses are online. And if you complete 6 or 7 levels, then your employability goes up by almost 70% in the US. And about 18 states are using those certificates are recognized by 18 states. Where are we compared to those?
Sure, sure. So I think the regulatory regime definitely needs an overhaul right now in our country. It's in a little bit of I think it's a little bit of a mess because online education is not really recognized as it comes under distance education regime, and which itself is undergoing a change as we speak. So hopefully over the next year or two, we'll have clear guidelines. We come under the National Skills Council, which is the NSDC skills mission, which I think is relatively progressive compared to some of the other organizations, but relatively less known. As a student, I don't really value an NSDC certificate as much I would value a university degree or even an AICT approved PGDM or things like that, right? So but I do think there are attempts happening, and I think this regime will get clearer in a year or two. I think the new government seems focused on it. And I hope that, they sort of clearly demarcated this is this, this is this, this is this. And I at least see attempts in this direction. I think outside of degree courses though, there's a lot of focus on skills which are 3-month, 4-month, 6-month courses, especially in technology. So for example, if you look at something like Android programming, which we know that, is a major need with, 400 million phones being sold and 10 million apps being created. And for Android skills, you don't need a BTech degree full, right? I mean, you can take normal engineers who are working in Java today, take them through a 4-5-month program, and they can learn Android and they can become employable in that sector, which has so many jobs. So I think there are a lot of sectors like this. Another one is, for example, big data analytics in tech, where a lot of things can be done online. And, we are seeing a lot of companies like Simplilearn, Edureka, which are doing all these courses online and doing very well. I mean, doing fairly good numbers. I think as many as 10,000, 15,000 a month kind of numbers, So, so I think skills, there is a lot of focus right now, and the online players are staying away from degrees because of the regulatory mess. I think the bigger ones, some like Sikki Manipal and others, I think have figured it out. They have their own universities. But the smaller ones, I think, are staying away from this till, it gets cleared. But the second point that you made, which is around, real hard skills, like you mentioned, community colleges in the US or ITIs here in India. I think that, because NSDC actually moderates a lot of that, other than ITIs and that. There, I think a blend model is being followed more and more, where in some places it's 70-80% physical, 20% tech. In some places it could be 60% physical, 40% tech, depending on the skill that you're teaching. But I think I see a trend of using mobile more and more. So what I'm seeing today is that somebody who's being trained for a retail, let's say, somebody who can be a salesperson in, let's say, West End, they see there are a lot of content today, vernacular, which they can see in their local language on a mobile phone. So I think there I see a lot of focus on content creation by different companies, and it's really nicely created, which tells how a real retail store works, or for example, let's say if you're making a auto mechanic, then some things you have to do hands-on, but some things you can teach that, how is the car constructed, like what are the different engine parts, at how frequency the service has to be done. So I'm seeing a blend, but it's very early, I would say. I think it's very, very early. Overall use of technology might be 5-10% today, but it will increase. Again, there are being attempts made to do more and more over a period of time.
Any other question? Yeah, okay, the last one.
I would like to share something in support to question which was asked by madam. I'm into education since last 20 years with grade 11 and 12 students. I am an engineer by qualification. Technology has always been my area of interest. Online education, K-12, what you mentioned, that was something new for me. So I had enrolled for a course of Coursera. But there is always time difference, US and here. The lecture was telecast when I was giving my lecture in my school. I just happened to notice on my mobile. So I just skipped it. Then I found something which was of interest, but then ultimately I lost interest. I did not complete it. So that interest factor, continuity factor, as she asked and you rightly answered, is the real issue. Human intervention is not there. So
I would argue it's the same issue in offline as well. You know, if you look at the normal campus education, in my view, I think students who do better are just more motivated for most part. So I think it's a real, but it's easier to address in offline. Student motivation is easier because you're there physically in front of them, but it's a huge issue in online. I 100% agree.
and I have a question that huge advertising which was done by IIN. What would that fit into? Yeah, is it really worth?
By IIM,
Idea internet.
Idea Internet, right?
बहुत advertisement देखे हमने. Is it real?
I think Idea is just trying to sell more phones and connections. I think, using all
Make some difference in education.
I don't think IIN, personally, I don't know what the numbers are of IIN, but I don't think they're significant from what I know. I think it's it's like what an Idea Surgery kind of campaign, it's a marketing activity. But, I can tell you in general, more and more is happening on mobile. I think because a lot of demographic don't have access to computers all the time. So what they're doing is, let's say if you want to give a 1 hour lecture, right? And you want to make video content for 1 hour. One way to do it is that you make a video content, upload it on YouTube, and let people see it. The other way is what people are doing, which is more effective, is break it down into 5-minute videos, 10 videos, 12 videos, and send it on WhatsApp every day. 5 minutes on Monday, 5 minutes on Tuesday. And what people are seeing is that is working very well. Because on WhatsApp, people see a 5-minute video, they're able to understand it, they're able to assimilate it, versus seeing a 1 hour video on computer. So those kind of things are definitely happening, but I don't think IIN is leading that effort.
Okay, thank you, Rajul, for sharing this wonderful thing about the future.
Hello. Yeah. Param? Param, are you online? Param, are you online? Chirag?
Hello, I think
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Bola.
Yeah. What do you want to say? These are basically excellent video from the annual management convention. But in context of the 2020, 19, 20, 21 online education, what do you want to say?
Yes, sir. So definitely some of the points that we discussed, I believe that a lot of discussion was about the platforms like edX and Coursera. And it seems that it was at a time when these platforms were still emerging, especially when it comes to the Indian market.
Right.
But in the COVID scenario and the post-COVID scenario, I must say, even I personally am using edX. I am taking courses on edX.
Oh.
And definitely there is a lot of improvement. There is a lot of response also, especially Coursera is quite popular. A lot of my friends are also doing. And what he definitely said and whatever questions were raised and what was discussed, yes, there are differences. There is a lot of difference when it comes to actual physical education or actual degree education and online education. There is a lot of difference in terms of the motivation also, as some of the audience was asking and questioning. But
Yes.
overall, definitely post-COVID scenario is really good for all of these platforms.
Right. Absolutely. And what you said, Chirag, specifically in last 2 years, just we thinking, if you think about the corona situation, and in this online education is not available, then what will happen to the school children or college children? Okay, many people say online education 6 hours, 10 hours, 4 hours, sitting at the home in front of mobile, laptop, or anything. There are a lot of negative, but positive side without education for 1.5 years. I think is possible in the global era. But Param and Chirag, what do you say?
Neville sir, that's a very good question. But if we study our ancestors' education system, we tell that આચરણથી શીખવાડે એને આચાર્ય કહેવાય. In Gujarati, we say that जो आचरण से सिखाता है उसको आचार्य कहते हैं. और हमारे में एक बच्चों को पहले ही मंत्र में ही सिखाते हैं कि मातृदेवो भव, पितृदेवो भव, गुरुदेवो भव, सत्यम वद, धर्मचर, ये बच्चों को घर में ही सिखाते हैं। सुबह उठ के ही हम ऐसे कराग्रे वस्ते लक्ष्मी, कर मूले तू सरस्वती, कर मध्य तू गोविंद, प्रभाते कर दर्शनम, उससे तो हमारा दिन चालू होता है सर। तो ये एजुकेशन क्या है कि हमें हमारे बच्चों को घर में ही देना है, और वो क्या है, फाउंडेशन है जो बच्चों का फ्यूचर डिसाइड करेगा। जैसे कि हम अभी बोइंग कंपनी, अमेरिका की बेस्ट कंपनी है, उसमें देखेंगे तो वहां पे दे आर नॉट हायरिंग ग्रेजुएट इंजीनियर, दे आर हायरिंग सर्टिफाइड एजुकेशन, मेजोरिटी एज ए कॉन्ट्रैक्ट एम्प्लॉयज। So majority of their employees are certified engineers. So things now in MNCs also the era is changing. They are hiring, they are checking the qualification, but they are also going ahead with practical test of the job functions. So people need output based on your skills. Now that era is slowly changing. With online education you can upgrade a skill. Nowadays we have initiation from IIT, IIT Kharagpur, IIT Guwahati. Some of the courses I also did in industrial automation. I also did some courses from IIT Kharagpur. So we have that facility available. In earlier days, if we want to study in IIT, we need to do a lot of competitive exam. We need to go to that place and learn. So those facilities are available. We can learn from IIT professors who are masters in that subject. Those facilities are available. So we can say that without compromising our ancestors education system, we can use technology for best output, and we can have advantages of both the education system.
Yeah,
What do you
absolutely
say?
right. Yeah, absolutely right. See, in addition to that, also, I wish to say, because of this online education only, there are many students, whether it's from B category city or semi-metro, like semi-metro Baroda, or down to the Baroda. So there are students, say, for example, staying in a Nadiad or Anand or Dahod, they will never ever get the, or even Baroda, they will never get the opportunity to attend the class of the global level faculty, whether it's from global university. Nowadays, everything is available online. So, right example is tomorrow itself. We have organized HR Business Analytics program at Faculty of Social Work Auditorium. And the first speaker is from Ahmedabad, but the second speaker for W, we have invited from Singapore. So generally for any kind of MNC product, there are some local level speakers are also available. I don't say they are not good. They are also very good because they are the people who are handling the business of local level. But because of this online facility, we got opportunities of invited the speaker, and then again this Friday evening talk show itself since last 2 years continuously, you can say, promoting uh, many kind of knowledge through online only, and this is one kind of, we can say, positive side. And what you say, Param, you are basically from chartered accountant and a higher education side. Do you think that online education will help to understand the higher education level? Means a very advanced level technology based. I don't say technology based or technology driven education, but high end courses is possible through online. What do you say, Param?
Sir, it is definitely possible. And for example, if I were to give an example of chartered accountancy itself, so a lot of our classes have already gone online, and I'm talking about from 2016-17, even in the pre-COVID era. Even we have attended classes which were online. So, for example, we were studying tax in Vadodara, but the faculty was teaching from Bhopal or from Indore. So all of this technology, all of these methods have already come in, but still there is a much need for a balance between actual physical interaction and the video lectures. Because when it comes to higher studies, be it in any field, be it chartered accountancy, be it engineering, be it medicine, in any field, In higher studies, it is not only the content that matters. It is not
Right.
only the subject content that matters. A lot matters. What lot matters is how the students understand, how the students react, whatever questions or doubts that the students might have. So yes, technology-based education or technology-driven education has already started playing a good role in higher education, but there needs to be a lot of balance between the technology-based or the lectures which are being delivered and the actual interaction with the students. So this kind of a balance is very necessary, and all of this cannot be done only by some remote faculty or by remote education. Physical interaction, personal interaction, one-to-one interaction is also needed.
Right, absolutely. I think we have discussed a lot of things regarding the bridge between the faculty and the students. But now again, something backside of the screen, we can say technology, real technology side. Being engineer, I must say that during my son when he was studied in 10th, 11th, 12th class, this online education specifically for simulation of engineering projects, that's helped me a lot. And also today, I can say there are a lot of engineering simulators are online available. Even though class 7 student want to understand what is the say simple example, viscosity, force, or any basic parameter of physics, you go to the online and you will get the fantastic simulation. So everything is, you can say, these are one kind of technology driven education system. And nowadays, due to the smart class education system, many students in urban area also getting the privilege. But yes, I absolutely endorse the Chirag statement about the insight, our history, Guru Shishya Parampara, and that's the reason that 99.99% we have talked positive about today talk, but 0.01% when we have shown the one beautiful, excellent, wonderful photograph in the today's newspaper. Then when students are going back, they hug their teacher and they loudly and proudly and shouted. Some of the students are sleeping in the bench only. Some of the students have started enjoying the lunch box. So all this momentum they created in the class due to offline education just now start. We can imagine the relation between the teacher and the students, and that's the beauty of again offline education. No doubt online education will be there, but what madam says in the last, actually I have not covered that video, but then what Mr. Nimesh Narsia is a very popular faculty and Facebook person, that any point of time online education will be there, but offline education requirements will never come less. So Param, what do you like to say at the
So,
end of the
so
talk?
definitely from the point that you were discussing, especially when it comes to school education, my opinion is that online education will never be able to replace school education. It will never deliver the quality because
Ah,
for school students at least, they really need that hand holding by the teachers, and that can only be done when they're in the class. Or online, that kind of hand holding, that kind of a two-way interaction is not possible. And we also know that practically, let's say, be it a Zoom call or be it any other kind of mode of delivery, practically a lot many students, when they're sitting at home and they're seeing the teacher on the screen, there are full chances that they might not be able to pay attention because practically I would also say that sometimes when you see a lecture or a teacher for a very long time just on the screen, you do tend to lose interest. And for kids of that
right.
age, for kids from the age of 6 years, 10 years, even 15 years, 16 years, that kind of a physical interaction, a physical classroom, learning with other friends, other batchmates, interacting with the teacher, a lot of it is very much necessary. So definitely online education is a good mode when it comes to let's say higher education or some skill based education, but it can never completely replace the school education or even college education. That is my view personally.
Yeah. Thank you, Param. It's a perfect manner what you are concluding this today's session. Before we go to the end of the session, I wish to share once again the detail regarding the tomorrow's program. It's a management development program we organize between 10 to 1 morning at IG Patel Hall, Faculty of Social Work. It's basically for HR and business analytics. Business analytics is one of the most advanced tool, upcoming tool, and very useful, we can say, for analyze our business in a perfect manner and day-to-day activity. So even though at last moment anybody wish to join the MDP, they can register themselves directly at hall also. In addition to that, this program, one more unique program we have come up, and that's I think already we have shared the detail regarding the program. That's a book review competition. It's a book review competition for the students at college. So this is the first time we have organized at Baroda Management Association, and the chairman, it's a dream project of our chairman, Mr. Suresh Purohit. In this program, we are offering 25 a very renowned and popular book, various kind of subjects we have covered in this 25 books. So we are offering 25 books list to the students. Students have to select as per their wish and interest of area, and he will give the 8-minute review, 6-minute review, and 2-minute question answer. And the preliminary round will be organized on the Monday, 29th November at 5 o'clock. It will be the virtual. And final round, it will be organized on the 4th of December. 4th of December round will be again, it's an in-person mode at BMA Hall. And yes, we will be live. We have arranged a live telecast of streaming of that program for the public viewing, not for the participant. Participant has to presence at BMA Hall. So these are the two programs we have lined up. One more program on 11th of December, this HR Conclave. HR Conclave it's a full day program, and we have organized at Faculty of Social Work, Ambedkar Hall. In this program, we have specially invited Mumbai's Dabbawala. So there are a lot of stories, there are a lot of various kind of subject regarding the technology. So we will share the details. Latest by tomorrow morning, we will release the brochure and we will send it to you via WhatsApp or mail. Meanwhile, in this banner, you must have received via WhatsApp or you must have Facebook. So you notice this Instagram our address. So please join us on Instagram also to get the latest all the detail regarding the our upcoming events. So thank you once again. Thanks a lot, Param. Thanks, Chirag. So let us enjoy for the next week. Next week, most probably we are organizing. Actually, it's a 2-day, but due to some last minute change in the schedule, we have postponed the students talk to the next week, and that will be the very Friday evening special talk in the fond memory of it's known as Dr. Sirkantia lecture. So we will very soon announce the topic detail and everything. Thank you. Thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.